Welcome to Principles of Management class. In this unit, we are discussing about organizing. In the previous class, we discussed about organization, types of organization, and organizational structure. We were discussing about very common types of organizational structures like a lines structure, functional structure, and matrix organizational structure. Hope now you would have understood about organizational structure and its importance. In today's class, we are going to discuss about the span of control. So, what is span of control? Uh, in organization, we have seen that organization comprises of three things very important. One is organization must have a group of people. Second one, organization should have a structure. And third one, organization should have some objective or goal to achieve. So these three important components comprises of an organization. So we have seen the organizational structure. So structure will, clearly mention who will be reporting to who, and who is the boss, and who and to whom he has to report to. So it will give you clear structure, the reporting authorities, and then duties and responsibilities. Here, span of control is simply refers to the number of employees that a manager can supervise effectively at any given time without compromising his or her own performance or that of employees he or she manages. So, a manager, how many people he directly control over, that is called span of control. If a person says, a manager says that he have five direct report, it means that he has span of control of five. Okay, so maybe under the five people there may be several people, each having a few people, but as a manager, in order to be effective, uh, he or she can manage up to like 8 12 people maximum. So that's a supervising and taking the responsibility and accountability. So simply saying that span of control refers to number of subordinates under the manager's direct control. As an example, a manager with five direct report has a span of control of five. So this span of control will help the employees in the organization to know to whom they are reporting to and who will be reporting to them. So here in the figure we see a narrow span of control where a manager has got like only two people reporting to him, and then in the other one there is a wide span of control where the manager has got around five employees reporting to them. This is a figure to make you understand the meaning of span of control. Then we see delegation. So delegation means entrusting responsibility and authority to another person and creating accountability. As we know, a manager has got so many things to do in an organization. He cannot do everything by himself. So he has to give the work responsibility to the people working under him according to their area of specialization and expertise and knowledge and skills. So for that he need to trust them, believe them, they have the capacity, they have the right attitude, they have the right skill to complete the task successfully. So that that act of work, allocating the work to the subordinates or the colleagues is called delegation. So thus the process of delegation of authority has the following three important elements. So what happens when they delegate? Okay, they delegate the responsibility, they delegate the managers, delegate the authority, they delegate the accountability for the particular work process. As we discussed just now, when they delegate the work, along with that, three aspects also delegated. First one is the responsibility. So what is the responsibility? Responsibility can be delegated. It is the first step in the delegation process. Okay, a manager assigns certain tasks to his subordinate because he alone cannot perform all those tasks. So that is not the way. Actually, we see in the management, manager is a person who get the things done by others. Okay, so it means that not necessary a manager to should carry out all the work by himself. He has to ensure, be in part, ensure that supervise that the things in the organization are done effectively and efficiently. So he has to delegate the work to the people. When they delegate the work, then along with the work, the responsibility also delegated to that particular person. However, he only assigns the task to his subordinates but not the responsibilities for the performance. So when he allocate the work to the subordinates, still the responsibilities is with the manager to complete the task successfully. The responsibility for proper performance of such tasks continues to rest with him. So he has to ensure that the work is done properly because he is accountable to the top management. Then we seen responsibility. Then the second one is authority. Besides assignment of duties, the subordinates are also granted authority to perform those duties properly. So, what happened? The work he is assigning to the subordinate is also granted some authority. Authority means some power, because along with the power, some resources will be able to they get, and so that they can complete the task successfully. So, authority refers to the powers and rights to use financial, physical, and human resource, as well as the right to decide, act or not to act. As I told you, authority is required to get the required resources. So, as you know, well, that resources includes man, material, money, machines, etc. All these things are resources. So in order to complete any task, employees need resources. So this authority will give them access to the resources. So authority is needed perform a given responsibility, because without authority it may be very difficult, even impossible, to carry out the given task. So in order to do the work given by the manager, so they are given some authority in order to get the necessary resources, so that once they get the necessary resources, they will be able to carry out the task and complete the task successfully. Accountability. The process of delegation is complete when the subordinate to whom the duties are assigned and the authority is delegated is made accountable for properly performing his duties and for properly exercising the authority delegated to him. So, when the work is given, the responsibility of completing will be under the manager, and manager is also giving authority to the employee to get the necessary resources in order to complete the task. So what happens, along with the responsibility and authority, there has to be accountability. Accountability means whatever they do, the impact. Okay, so that is called the outcome. That is called accountability. So what happens? This accountability help in properly performing the duties and for properly exercising the authority delegated to him. So, along with the work, it comes the responsibilities, authority, and the accountability. Okay, now we go to the topic centralization and decentralization. So, what is centralization and what is decentralization? When we discuss about organization, we learn that organizations, nowadays going from tall to flat organization. Flat means here, I mean, most of the employees in the organization, based on their power they are, I mean, the position they are given some authority and power to take decision. So if the employees in an organization are given authority and power to take decision, that organization will be called decentralized. If the organization will not let much authority and power to the people at the different level, the supervisors, the middle level managers, lower level managers, to take decision. So when they need to take permission for everything from the top management, that those kind of organizations are called decentralized, centralized organization. Okay, now we go into details. Centralization. Centralization is a form of organizational structure where the decision making capability rests with the top management. So everything, the decision, everything, the power is rest with the top management. A couple of handpicked members are entitled to create strategies, determine the goals and objectives based on which organizational will function. So a senior most member in the board of directors are given the power, and they will be coming up with the strategies. They will be determining the goals and objectives for the organization. Based on that, the organization will run. In centralized organization, the top management sets rules and procedures which are then communicated to the lower employees, who are expected to carry out the same without questioning the authority. So in the centralized structure, the top management, which as I told you includes the board of directors, chairman, managing director, vice president. So these people actually, they come up with the rules and then procedures, and these rules and regulations and procedures are communicated people at the lower level, and then these people are expected to carry out this. I mean, they don't have the rights to question them whether or suggest them whether this is appropriate or not. They have to simply follow the rules and regulations. Okay, so this kind of organization is called a more centralized organization. So now we see the advantages. The advantage of such a structure is it allows employees to have well-defined framework within which all work needs to be carried out. So one of the important advantages that here the staff have the well-defined framework, means say they know very clearly what needs to be done. Okay, who will dictate and who need to from them they need to take permission, everything, so that they carry out the function. The disadvantage of such a structure is that it increases the time taken to arrive at a decision. Okay, as decision making authority lies with the selected people from top management, it may result in biased decision making. So what happens, the disadvantage is that that's a main disadvantage, that if a staff member, a lower level manager, say a supervisor, has to take a particular decision. Okay, so if they want to buy even a small machinery which cost few thousands, what happens, they don't have the authority. So what happens, they have to ask their departmental manager, and then departmental manager has to ask his immediate boss, and the immediate boss has to take the permission from the top management. So what happens, so it is a very time consuming process, and the people at the middle or bottom level really don't have any authority to take decision, not only to purchase anything, in order to change the process, in order to change a few procedures, people at middle and lower level don't have any, power at all. So everything they have to ask from the top management. So what happens here? The timing is more wasted, and then this may be a demotivation for the staff as they don't have that much power. So these are the disadvantages of the centralization. Then we see what is decentralization. So decentralization is another form of organizational structure that functions by delegating decision making capabilities to multiple teams across geographies. In such organization, most of the planning, strategy, and decision to implement them are taken by the people in the middle and lower level of management. So here, decentralized structure is the other form of organizational structure where the functions are given to the people at different levels, even level managers like foremen, supervisors, lower level managers. They also have the power to take decision. Even they have power to change certain processes if they need is better in improving the efficiency and the effectiveness of the staff members. Okay, so in such that kind of people, uh, the middle level and lower level managers have the real power, and this is also a kind of motivation for them to, work. The advantage of decentralization is that employees are empowered to make their own decisions that will benefit the organization, which result in a high level of employee satisfaction and boost the productivity of the organizations. So, what happens when employees are given empowerment at the middle level and bottom level? So, this will give them a feeling of satisfaction that their decision is there. So they put their heart and soul in completing their task successfully. So this will increase the production, not only increase the production, but this will also boost the satisfaction of the staff. Okay, when the staffs are satisfied, they tend to perform very well. Decentralization enables low level employees to gain leadership skills which can contribute to the growth of the organization in the long run. So, in the long run, what will happen? This will enable the employees at the lower level to, I mean, to develop the leadership skill as they are empowered. So, they have the power to take the right decision, which is good for the organization. Here we see the difference between the decentralization and centralization. So definition, as you know, decision making capabilities delegated across multiple levels, whereas in centralized one, decision making capability rests with the top management only. Flow of information here in decentralized is open and free, whereas a flow of information in centralized is vertical. That is, a flow of information flows from top to bottom. It is ideal for decentralization, is ideal for large sized organizations. Centralization is ideal for small organizations. So decision making speed in decentralized, since the people at the middle and lower level are empowered, so it is very faster, whereas in centralized it's comparatively slower. So people involved in decentralized, a higher number of people from each level are involved in the decision making, whereas in centralized, only few handpicked people are involved in decision making process. Employee motivation, highly motivated employees in decentralized structure. Here in the centralized structure, demotivated employees. Conflict in decision. So mostly like to occur in decentralized. Why? Because so many people are involved. When so many people are involved, there may be a conflict. Here, centralized one, only few people are involved, so least likely to occur. Then burden, the burden gets shared among many levels. Since more people are involved, so it is shared. But in the centralized one, only one group of people is carrying out the burden. Then stability, prone to instability due to multiple conflicting decisions. So that is the disadvantages. It is there's high chances of it becoming unstable due to the multiple conflict decision, whereas in the centralized one, it's relatively stable as the decision are made by central authority sharing some common ideology. So by going through this, the differences, between the centralized and decentralized, I hope you would have understand clearly about centralization and decentralization. So that's all for this today's class. We will continue with the next topic in our next class. Thank you.